In daily news reports, we can see these people in expensive and beautiful suits, the price of which seems sky-high to an ordinary person. They travel exclusively in luxury cars and spend their leisure time at prestigious resorts. Many of their watches cost more than an apartment, and some own entire collections of these. Large villas, many apartments, and real estate worldwide. Plus, millions in relatives, children's, and friends' accounts. But sometimes all of this can be very, very different. And it's so amazing that it truly strikes you to the core, as if it's some kind of parallel reality. You'll now see stories of seemingly ordinary or truly extraordinary people. Stories that are hard to believe. This may seem like something out of a Hollywood movie, but it's actually true documentary reality. Let's take a look at it. Let's begin with this Russian countryside pensioner. Well, of course not. This isn't a pensioner, but the president of an economically developed country. José Alberto Mujica Cordano, the 40th president of Uruguay, served from 2010 to 2015 and was known for spending time in his own kitchen in Latin America. His lifestyle is very different from how the powerful of this world usually live. Locals call the 78-year-old president El Pepe. He donated almost his entire presidential salary to charity. He was the poorest or the most generous president in the world. The president earned 263,000 Uruguayan pesos, about 400,000 rubles a month. He kept only a tenth for himself. 26,300 pesos, or 40,000 rubles. He declined to live in the palace and remains in a small rural house where the president draws water from a yard well. He and the First Lady work the land and grow flowers. José Mujica, a guerrilla member, was wounded several times and spent 14 years in military prisons for his fight for independence. The biggest personal purchase during his entire presidency was an old 1987 Volkswagen Juke. It instantly reminds me of the Russian proverb, "A rich man can share, while a poor man is never satisfied." Here are his words, "Be happy with little and don't burden yourself, as happiness is within, or you will achieve nothing." This is an excuse for poverty. This is an excuse for restraint. We invented a consumer society always seeking growth, making its absence a tragedy, and creating excessive needs. You have to constantly buy and throw away. These are our lives that we are breaking. When I buy something, or when you buy it, we don't pay with money. We pay with the time of our lives that we were forced to spend to earn that money. The only difference is in wasting life. Life passes by, and that's terrible. Actually, Wise Hose is not the only such leader. There are other examples. For instance, take a look at this shepherd. This man's name is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. What's amazing is that this man was the president of Iran from 2005 to 2013. We are not going to judge his effectiveness as president. We are simply sharing information that was recently reported by many media outlets and has caused quite a stir in a short period of time. And here's why. According to many sources, the president of a country with a population of nearly 80 million people, Ahmadinejad, used to commute to work by public bus and paid the fare just like everyone else, buying a ticket. At the same time, his wife worked as an ordinary cleaner, mopping floors at one of the educational institutions in the capital. Not much is known about his personal life, but here are some details that are surprising, if not shocking. A Fox News journalist once asked Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, "When you look in the mirror in the morning, what do you say to yourself?" After thinking for a moment, the man replied, "Always remember that you are nothing more than a simple servant of the people." His actions as president were surprising from the very first day when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad first entered the state office. He surprised many people by ordering that the expensive Persian carpets hanging there be urgently given to one of Tehran's mosques, replacing them with the most ordinary, cheap carpets. But that's not all. At the time when Mahmoud became president, his official declaration of assets was very modest. All that was listed there was an old 1977 Peugeot 504 car and a small house in one of the poorest districts of Tehran, which he inherited from his father more than 40 years ago. But besides that, President Ahmadinejad surprised all the administration staff by what he brought to work every day. He carried his breakfast, cheese and olive oil sandwiches his wife made the night before, in his briefcase. Under his leadership, every minister had to sign a detailed document before their appointment. One clause stated the official couldn't get rich and that his and his relatives' accounts would be closely monitored. After stepping down in 2013, he refused a large presidential pension, saying he worked for the people's good, not for a pension. He said he and his wife didn't need much money to live. According to sources, today the former president lives on an income of $300 a month from giving lectures at the university. When staying at a hotel, he always requests a simpler room and doesn't need a bed, preferring to sleep on a mattress on the floor with just a blanket. This man's hobby is no less surprising. In his free time, he can herd sheep, since he has loved doing this since early childhood. It was common to see the former president helping janitors sweep in his neighborhood. Wikipedia reports that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad sold his Peugeot 504 in 2010, 1977 manufactured up for auction. You could buy a used car like that for $1,000. But the bidding became much more lively when a man who chose to remain anonymous valued the car at $1 million. Despite their enormous authority and influence, even after leaving a high position, Mahmoud can often be seen simply walking from the public transport stop to the university, to work, where, by the way, local residents often ask him for autographs. So that's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, a former president and shepherd. Well, now let's get back to our unusual rich people and take a look at this story that's so typical for Russia. This man passed away in April 2019. Vladislav Valentinovich Tetyukhin was not a classic oligarch. Thanks to his personal qualities, he basically raised titanium production in Russia. Then, billionaire Vekselberg set his sights on his already well-established, functioning and steadily profitable enterprises, after which legal proceedings began with the aim of seizing the business. But Vladislav Valentinovich saw the creation of a state-of-the-art medical center, not the oligarchic dealings with influential figures, as the main thing in his life. Tetyukhin had been thinking for a long time about the fact that titanium is a material that is absolutely ideal for existing within the human body. The idea to build a medical center came back in 2008. In January 2012, construction began on the Ural Clinical Treatment and Rehabilitation Center. Almost all the money Tetyukhin received from selling his shares in Verkhnaya Salda Metallurgical Production Association, Avisma, was invested in this project. A German company was responsible for the design. He aimed to treat and restore people through a full cycle, from diagnosis and treatment to comprehensive three-stage rehabilitation, to create a center with equipment, technology, comfort, and accessibility for people with disabilities, matching European centers. In addition, in this way, he also wanted to express his gratitude to the workers of the Urals, who created the largest titanium production in the world. The initial estimate for the construction was set at 2.5 billion rubles. By the end of construction, it had risen to 3 billion rubles. In 2012, after selling his remaining shares, Tetyukhin increased the investment to 4 billion rubles. As the project grew beyond its original scope, his own funds remained insufficient. Tetyukhin then sought government support. He managed to get about 1.2 billion rubles. The money was allocated through the Middle Urals Development Corporation. The governor supported, and the president approved creating the center. The medical center received its license in June 2014 and began surgeries in September. Around 60 doctors work at the center, coming from Omsk, Orenburg, Tomsk, Tyumen, Zabaikalsky Krai, Moscow, and other Russian cities. A 6-story building for staff has been built on the territory of the medical center. There is Zabaikalsky Krai. The center performs 4,500 surgeries. So, what is the result? According to the staff, the government has been reducing treatment quotas since 2018. In 2019, the center's quota for surgeries under the compulsory medical insurance was reduced by a quarter. The center ran at under half capacity, yet its maintenance cost the owners 1 billion rubles annually. What is happening now is, to put it mildly, lawlessness, said Vladislav Tetyukhin in this regard. It feels like we're being destroyed. Nevertheless, it seems that this man left this world as a happy person after all, because he knew that you can't take anything with you. Not everyone realizes this simple truth. There's a telling story about this sweet old lady. Henrietta Green was called the Witch of Wall Street. This woman had a huge influence on all the biggest financial deals made in New York. Almost every businessman of that time owed her money, and Getty's wealth was measured in millions of dollars. She is remembered in history not just as the wealthiest woman, but also for her astonishing stinginess that defies logic. Getty was born in 1834 into a wealthy and devout Quaker family. Her parents were involved in whaling, and her upbringing was entrusted to her grandfather, who took a rather peculiar approach to his granddaughter's education. Accounting reports became her counting books, and reading financial summaries replaced alphabet lessons. Moreover, for reading the news, the girl got some coins from her grandfather, which she promptly deposited into her bank account instead of spending. By the age of 13, Henrietta was already entrusted with all the family bookkeeping. When her father went to the port, he took his daughter with him. She was present during the loading of cargo for Henrietta Ruska and witnessed the corporal punishment of dishonest sailors. When Getty turned 15, her parents sent her to a school in Boston. They dreamed that their daughter would receive a classical education, but they overlooked one thing. Getty knew exactly what she wanted. The girl saw no benefit in studying. Her grades were terrible except in mathematics, where she showed unique results. Getty didn't stay in school long. After a year of accounting courses, she claimed to know everything she needed. One day, her parents gave Henrietta a trip to New York for the whole winter as a gift. They gave her $1,000, a large sum at the time. The enterprising young woman didn't spend the money on dresses and accessories, but invested it in stocks. In 1865, Henrietta's father died and left her $7.5 million. In an instant, she became a highly desirable bride. Suitors hoping to get her fortune weren't put off by anything, not the millionaire's plain looks, nor the rumors that surrounded her. Living in Boston, Henrietta wore the same dresses and shoes everywhere. At her receptions, candles were put out before guests left, and the stubs were sold the next morning. These quirks didn't put off Getty's future husband, businessman and millionaire Edward Green. But within the first few months of marriage, he realized that Henrietta's antics were not just the quirks of an extravagant rich woman, but a manifestation of universal stinginess. Before marrying Edward, Henrietta made him sign a prenuptial agreement. It said the husband couldn't take any money from the millionaire woman's fortune. Even when Green's business went badly and he turned to his wife for a loan, she refused him and threw him out the door. The children also endured the world's stingiest woman, their mother, with her son, Ned, and daughter Sylvia. They lived with their mother in cheap motels, since Henrietta Green refused to buy an apartment or a house. Getty Green's children were always hungry and wore old, patched and repatched clothes. The millionaire wore the same clothes for years, even saving on underwear. She did all the washing and mending herself to avoid paying laundresses or maids, and didn't use hot water, too expensive for every cent. In the store, Henrietta Green fought desperately. All the local merchants hated her. Her own son came to hate her too. One day, Henrietta Green finally loosened her purse strings and bought Ned a sled. Amazed by his luck, the boy rushed to the hill but broke his leg. His mother quickly took him to the doctor. However, at the hospital for the poor, Getty Green was well known there, and they refused to help. So she started treating her son herself. Nothing good came of it. The young man suffered pain for years until his leg was amputated. It's clear that Henrietta couldn't be called a loving mother. When Ned grew up, he worked at her company for next to nothing. As the heiress to a considerable fortune, Getty Green multiplied it in a very short time. Local brokers knew that if Getty Green bought some stocks, their prices would soar the next day. Before making a deal, the millionaire woman thoroughly reviewed the companies and ultimately knew more than their owners. Green also bought cheap real estate and sold it at very high prices. Getty also owned a stake in railroad companies. Even New York authorities sought her help. Getty Green reluctantly gave $1 million from her fortune and personally collected the debt and interest. All this helped Henrietta Green amass a huge fortune. Today, it's estimated at $3 to $4 billion. Throughout her entire life, Getty Green spent at most a few percent of that money, earning the title of the most miserly person in the world. In her old age, Henrietta Green became more cautious and suspicious. She saw conspiracies and assassination attempts everywhere. Even when visiting her few friends, she would bring her own gas burner and a hard-boiled, unsalted egg, which was her food at gatherings. Strict food restrictions and refusal to see doctors led Getty Green to a heart attack. In 1916, she passed away, and her children inherited $100 million each, and they handled it contrary to the wishes of their mother and her ancestors. Getty Green's children, Ned and Sylvia, inherited their mother's money and quickly spent it. Ned bought an expensive car and used up the rest of the money in a few years. The daughter devoted herself to charity, helping people worldwide. This is one of the most remarkable cases. Now let's consider an equally remarkable case, but with the opposite result. This ordinary-looking man is named Harris Rosen. Rosen grew up in New York in an ordinary family. His childhood was typical, and after school, his parents gave him an education. He earned a Bachelor of Science from Cornell University's School of Hotel Administration, already aiming to make the world better even then. It was for this reason that in the mid-70s the young man approached Walt Disney to work for him and do good for people. But for some unknown reason, Disney didn't hire Harris. He didn't see any potential in this young man, even though Rosen's eyes were full of passion. After failing his final interview at Walt Disney's company, a disappointed Harris didn't even know what to do at first. All his dreams were shattered instantly, forcing him to find a way to survive and earn money. The young man got a hotel job and then spent years working in hotels across various states in America. In his 30s, Rosen settled in Orlando, in sunny Florida. He was still working at a hotel, and as he felt then, life was slowly passing him by. The man excelled at his job and, after years in the hotel business, saved money through hard work. And in the mid-80s, he scraped together $25,000, borrowing a small part from friends, and bought a small, old hotel. It was from this moment that the story of great success began. As the city of Orlando grew, so did the hotel business. In just a few years, he achieved great success and became first a wealthy man, and then a very wealthy man. Then just live, enjoy yourself, spend your fortune, buy expensive cars and yachts, relax at resorts, and fly on private jets. But, by chance, this wealthy man learned about the town of Tangelo Park. About 5,000 African Americans living there were mired in vice and drugs and were leading a miserable existence. They had no hope for a better future, and all decent people tried to avoid the town. It was a terrible place where even the police were afraid to stick their noses in. The crime rate was off the charts and was the highest in the state. As Harris himself later said, "I just couldn't stand aside. For me, it was a new challenge." Can you imagine that? A millionaire without any security gets into his premium class car and drives all alone right into the very heart of this hell. He left his luxury car in the middle of the street and went in to meet the residents. He found the leaders of local gangs, the heads of local communities, and gathered ordinary people from this city. Of course, many were shocked by such boldness and maybe even audacity from the man. But that's exactly what won them over. Rosen was so confident in his desire to help these people that this confidence was passed on to the local residents as well. A few days later, the strange white man returned to town, this time not empty-handed. He delivered food, clothes, and computer equipment to the local school, and a few days later also brought sports equipment. Just a few months later, the millionaire decided to tie his fate to the dying town. He bought a house on one of the streets and came here to live. He realized there was much work ahead. In the very first year, he spent $4 million of his own money, without a hint of regret, to the adults of the town. Because of this, hundreds of men and women found good jobs and a place in the world. In addition, Rosen paid for preschoolers to attend kindergartens because most children simply didn't have the basic opportunity to go to kindergarten. He guaranteed all high school graduates who finished with good grades further education in universities and colleges, as well as substantial scholarships. After this, the student graduation rate increased from 20 to 100%, and the district's crime rate dropped significantly. Even car thieves, drug dealers, and lifelong gun carriers were now meeting him in the library or rushing to exams. Later, Harris donated $25 million and also gave a plot of land to the University of Central Florida for the development of hotel management at the college there. All graduates of local schools are automatically admitted to this college completely free of charge. Moreover, all of them later find jobs in Rosen's business. To date, the Billionaires company includes 8,000 hotel rooms, which are serviced by 4,000 employees. Harris is widely known in Central Florida and far beyond its borders for his kindness. The Billionaires said, Mr. Rosen also funded a new community center in southwest Orlando and built sports fields, city infrastructure, kindergartens, and schools. He provided housing to dozens of families, found jobs for nearly all city residents, supports small businesses, and teaches financial literacy to ex-gang members. He sponsors children's sports clubs because, thanks to the development of sports, teenagers no longer end up on the streets, but achieve results in athletic disciplines. Today, Tangelo Park is completely different and no longer resembles the terrible place now only mentioned in town legends and jokes. That's how it happened that just one person, who built himself up from scratch, was also able to change the fate of an entire city and tens of thousands of people. And now imagine that each of us can do something similar. Maybe not on such a large scale, but still, every long journey into new territory starts with a single step. Here's another inspiring example. Savji Dholakia was born to poor farmers in a remote, forgotten village. The boy finished 4th grade and dropped out of school at the age of 13. At that difficult time, he didn't have the opportunity to get an education, and at such a young age, he started helping his uncle, who had a small business. After being guided by his relatives and becoming an adult, he borrowed a little money to start his own business. Business was booming, and in 1984 he founded a diamond business. By 1992, he had opened a diamond export office in Mumbai. As of today, his company has grown to become a market leader and the main diamond exporting company with 7,000 employees worldwide. Now, we're going to talk about these employees. A few years ago, all the company's employees were invited to a special event held at the city's stadium. After the opening speech, Savji announced that all employees who managed to achieve the best results would receive 1,260 cars and 400 apartments from the company. But that's not all. He stated that one of his main goals for the next 5 years would be to provide his employees with personal housing and transportation. Back in 2012, the director also gave 3 of his employees Mercedes cars as gifts. But if you think that the oddities of this very wealthy man ended there, you're mistaken. In summer 2016, he sent his 21-year-old son to a small southern town to find work and a place to live. The young man took with him 3 sets of clothes, toiletries, and 7,000 rupees, which is about 6,500 rubles, just in case of emergency. The millionaire sent his son to find out the real value of money. He worked odd jobs at a shoe store and at McDonald's. As the tycoon himself said, he can't work at one place for more than a week. He can't use his father's name or a mobile phone. I also told him that when he returns home after a year, he must bring back the 7,000 rupees he took from home when he left. I wanted him to understand life and how poor people struggle for work and money. No university can teach us these life skills except experience. He's both mysterious and amazing. Multi-millionaire Savji Dholakia. But there's another story from India that we've saved for last. Preparations for Shera Munot's most important celebration had been underway for 6 months. And since weddings in India are celebrated for about a week, naturally, the preparations had to be very serious. Shera was her parents' only daughter, and her father, Ajay Munot, was among the wealthiest and most respected people in India. Like any other father, Ajay adored his beloved Shera, and he did everything to make sure his princess was the happiest. The total number of guests was supposed to be around 3,000. Everything was going according to plan, and the wedding day was approaching. It seemed that nothing foreshadowed any changes in their plans. But one day, as Ajay himself later recounted, the daughter of Sher knocked on the magnate's office door. In a timid voice, she asked if she could have a few minutes of his time. Shera honestly admitted that she really wanted to have a lavish wedding. She knows her father dreams of marrying her off and making it the area's biggest event. After that, Shera stirred and said the following words. The girl said that she planned to use all that money to build new houses. After that, Shera explained her wish. Ajay took some time to think, but since there was very little time left before the wedding, no more than 2 months, the father didn't say anything about his decision. When the long-awaited moment finally came, on the wedding day, Ajay solemnly called the newlyweds to him and then said that he had a gift for them. They went together by car to an unfamiliar place, and when the car stopped, the girls saw an entire neighborhood of new houses. In just 2 months, 90 houses were built with all the amenities, including electricity, water supply, sewage, internet, and more. For his part, Ajay personally selected the families in need, those who would be fortunate enough to live in these houses. First and foremost, he was guided by the needs of the new owners. I saw many people work hard their whole lives, but never afford a roof over their heads. For the most part, these were working families whose heads worked in tough jobs. But it's also important that they shouldn't drink alcohol. Right there, Ajay asked his daughter to personally hand over the keys to the new houses to their new owners, who had already gathered there by that time. After that, they were all invited to Shera's wedding. The girl couldn't believe this miracle and said that she was very proud of her father's action. After that, they officially opened the neighborhood together. But Ajay thinks completely differently. He thanks Shera for giving him the opportunity to help poor people. Besides, he is happy that he raised such a daughter. She grew up to be a truly kind person, and a lot of money didn't spoil her. That means everything he did was not in vain. The couple did have a wedding, but it wasn't as big or expensive. Friends, it's important to note that big money doesn't always spoil people, and there are still examples of this. Not all is lost. Well, that's probably all for today. Be sure to write in the comments which story surprised or inspired you the most. Remember to rate this film if it made you think. See you soon on our channel.